Mr. Chancellor, it is my honor to present to you Ms. Leanne Martin, a revolutionary figure in the study and influence of Indigenous art. For more than 3 decades, Ms. Martin has curated, written, and lectured extensively on contemporary Indigenous art, both nationally and internationally. Her contribution to visual art and curatorial practice in Canada cannot be overstated. Ms. Martin has helped carve institutional space for the Indigenous arts community. A report she produced in 1990 led the Canada Council for the Arts to develop an acquisition program for works by contemporary Indigenous artists, which helped correct their long-standing systemic exclusion from public collections. While working at the Canadian Museum of Civilization in the early 1990s, she co-curated the seminal exhibition INDIGENA, Perspectives of Indigenous Peoples on 500 Years, a critical response to the 5th-century anniversary of European colonization. The show was the first Indigenous curated exhibition organized, my apologies. As Concordia undertakes its decolonization process to redress historical inequities, we could look to no greater model than Ms. Martin. Mr. Chancellor, on behalf of the Board of Governors and Senate, it is my privilege and honor to present to you Ms. Leanne Martin so that you may confer upon her the degree of Doctor of Fine Arts, honoris causa.
I would like to now ask Dr. Martin to address the convocation.
Thank you. This is pretty exciting. I'm excited tonight. It's wonderful. So good evening, Mr. Chancellor, Mr. President, and Vice Chancellor, honored platform guests, graduating class, family, and friends. I thank you so much for honoring me with this doctorate today. It is my great pleasure to speak with you on this very special day. Congratulations to each of you on this milestone achievement. With your graduation, I hope that the desire to grow and learn continues with you well into the future. Focus on what excites you because it will lead you to wonderful places. I can speak for that myself. Whatever it is that you decide to work towards over the coming years, I really recommend leading with kindness and compassion. Generosity of spirit towards those around you will ensure you are far more likely to learn from them and in turn make you better at what you want to do. I have been most fortunate over my lifetime to combine the passions of an avocation with the responsibilities of a vocation. I think we are truly blessed when we can blur the lines between work and play, when we are able to do what we love and love what we do. I had grown up watching my grandmother and others gather and braid sweetgrass. I had participated in various events on my home reserve of Tyendinaga and at the Urban Friendship Center in Toronto. So when I began my university education in the before times, way back when in the early 1970s, I wanted to gain more knowledge about Indigenous peoples, their communities, and the art that they were making. However, I quickly found that courses on Indigenous people were wanting and courses on Indigenous art simply did not exist at that time. Growing up in the city and as a working mother who could only take night courses, I supplemented my education with visits to Indigenous family friends and elders. Much later, after moving to the United States, I was very fortunate to study as a mature, full-time student at the University of Maine, alma mater of Dr. Carr, I must say, where I enjoyed a curriculum fine-tuned to my growing passion for Indigenous art. This was accomplished with the support and guidance of two faculty members, one in anthropology and one in art history, who became close friends and colleagues. And then several years later, I was motivated to begin my studies toward the Masters of Museum Studies at the University of Toronto. Inspired by my previous employment at a museum at the University of Maine, it had become painfully apparent to me that Indigenous perspectives in the field of museology were both insufficiently underrepresented and profoundly needed. And this was in the late 1980s. But university gave me the confidence and direction I needed to do what really mattered to me. Museum studies allowed me the opportunity to research the timely debates involving museums and Indigenous peoples, including collections, conservation, representations, inclusion, etc. Following graduation, I felt that I had been in the right place at the right time with the right degree, as I was invited to coordinate the task force on museums and First Peoples and to serve as curatorial resident at the Canadian Museum of History, which was then the Canadian Museum of Civilization. These experiences allowed me to meet and debate issues with diverse individuals across the country and around the world. And so I stand before you to accept this honorary degree, not alone, but because of the support of so many people throughout my life, beginning with my parents in my early life to my children and husband today. Again, I would not be here without the understanding and vision of so many faculty members, colleagues, and museum directors who encouraged me to research and develop so many curatorial projects. But it was the Indigenous artists and the growing number of Indigenous curatorial colleagues with whom I became most closely connected from early in my career to the present day. It has always been the artists from whom I've learned and enjoyed close friendships and support. I would like to acknowledge the importance of the large community of Indigenous artists here in Canada and internationally. And I know that several of you are here this evening, and for that I am greatly humbled. And I also want to acknowledge Concordia University for its programs and initiatives to include and develop Indigenous art and cultures in their programs. Indigenous artists and arts professionals have developed a formidable intellectual force that champions the premises of Indigenous beliefs and practices. These are the people who continue to inspire my work as a curator. I hope that one day you too will find your community of inventive and encouraging colleagues. So today I wish each of you a prosperous path forward, whatever that might mean for you. And again, I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be included in this wonderful celebration. Congratulations to each and every one of you. Thank you.
Dr. Martin, thank you for your remarks. I've long believed that art is food for the soul, and what better evening to nourish all of our souls. Thank you.